Welcome to aminacademy.com. Let us do history of the Greek world in that archaic Greece. The story of the Greek world in the Dark Age could mostly be described as a story of fragmentation, with a few exemptions. Individual sites had limited contact with each other. The Archaic period, however, appears to have been a time of growing contacts and connections between different parts of the mainland Greece. Furthermore, it was the time of expansion as the establishment of overseas colonies and cities brought the Greeks to Italy and Sicily in the west, and Asia Minor and the Black Sea littoral in the east. Furthermore, while Greek is the archaic period saw themselves as citizens of individual city states. This period also witnessed the rise of pan-Hellenic identity, as all Greeks saw themselves connected by virtue of their common language, religions, and Homeric values. This pan Hellenic identity was ultimately cemented during the Persian Wars, to invasion of Greece by the Persian Empire at the end of the Archaic period. Now we'll discuss further about Archaic Greece. The Archaic period of Greek history was a time of significant change and development from around 800 BC to 480 BC. The rise of the city state. The polis, or city state, became the defining feature of Greek political life. The geography of Greece, with many settlements separated by mountains, encouraged the development of small independent city states. The Greek alphabet was developed during this period. Art and architecture, monumental sculptures, and red figures pottery developed. Democracy. Athens developed its democratic system with all citizens men appearing to have a right to attend the assembly by the 7th century. Colonization. Greek colonies were founded around the Mediterranean and Black Sea. Trade. The Greek became part of the trade network that spanned the Mediterranean. Literature. The earliest surviving Greek literature was composed. The Archaic period was preceded by the Greek Dark Ages, when people lived in small farming villages scattered throughout Greece. It was allowed by a classical period, which is one of the better documented period of Greek history. Now let us discuss further more about Archaic period. In history and archaeology, the earliest phase of the culture, the term is most frequently used by art historians to denote the period of artistic development in Greece from about 650 to 480 BC, the date of the Persian sack of Athens. During the Archaic period, the Greek art became less rigidly stylized and more naturalistic. Paintings on vases evolving from geometric designs to representation of human figures, often illustrating epic tales. In sculptures, faces were animated with characteristics, archaic smile, and bodies were rendered with a growing attention to human proportion and anatomy. The development of the Doric and Ionic orders of architecture in the Archaic period also reflected a growing concern with harmonious architectural proportions. Now, about the Greek religion. One theory modern scholars have proposed for the rise of polis connects the location of the city states to known cult sites. The theory argues that the Greeks of the Archaic period built city states around these precincts of various gods in order to live closer to them and protect them. While impossible to know for sure if this theory or any other regarding The rise of the policy is true. The building of temples in cities sites during an archaic period shows the increasing emphasis that the police were placing on religions. Furthermore, discussion about Greek religion. The ancient Greek religion was a polytheistic religion that was a central part of the everyday life. The Greeks believed in many gods and goddesses, each with a specific domain. For example, Zeus was the king of the gods and ruled over the sky, while Poseidon ruled over the sea. Our gods included Demeter, who ruled over the harvest, and Hera, who ruled over the marriage. Myths. The Greek created myths to explain a god's role and interaction with mortals and other gods. Temples were built honor of specific gods and housed cult states of these deities. Festivals were held to honor the gods and heroes of each city. Festivals included processions, performances, sacrifices, and feasting. Major festivals also included competitions in music, athletics, and drama. Rituals. Rituals include animal sacrifices, prayers, liberations, procession, and divination. Afterlife. The Greeks believed that the dead had to receive a rudimentary burial to have an afterlife. The gods' hymns conducted the dead to the underworld, where they were ferried across the river Styx by Charon. The Greeks' religion lasted for over thousand years, from the time of Homer to the reign of the Emperor Julian. They influenced the Mediterranean world, and the Romans identified their deities with those of these Greeks. Maritime and colonization. The historians Herodotus record that sometimes 630 BCE, the king of the small island of Thera traveled to Delphi to offer sacrifice and consult the order on a few minor points. To this purpose, the oracle's response had nothing to do with his queries. Instead, the Pythia directed him to found a colony in Libya in North Africa. Having never heard of Libya, the king ignored the advice. The 7 year drought ensued. The Thermos felt compelled to consult the oracle again. Receiving the same response as before, they finally sent out a group of colonists who eventually founded the city of Siren. While the story may sound absurd, it is similar to other foundation stories of Greek colonies and emphasizes the importance of the Delphic oracle. Maritime trade and civilization, further details we'll discuss. Maritime trade and colonization were important aspects of ancient Greek civilization. The Greeks developed maritime routes and shipbuilding techniques that enabled them to dominate trade in the Mediterranean Sea. The Greeks traded goods like olive oil, wine, pottery, and precious metals. They, import, they imported items like wheat, barley, pork, cheese, glass, and ivory. Colonization. The Greeks established colonies along the coast of Mediterranean and Black Sea, as well as modern-day Sicily and southern Italy. These colonies served as trading outposts and cultural exchange hubs. The origin of Greek maritime trade can be traced back to the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations. The Greeks developed early ship called triremes that were designed for speed and maneuverability. They developed the development of a standardized currency, the drachma, further facilitated trade, colonization, and conflict. The establishment of Greek colonies led to conflict and tension with the Persian Empire. The Persian Wars lasted from 500 to 479 BCE. Aristocracy, democracy, and tyranny in archaic Greece. Later Greek historians, including Herodotus and Thucydides, noted a certain trend in the trajectory of the history of most Greek polis. Most city-states started out with a monarchical or quasi-monarchical government. Over time, the people gained greater representation and an assembly of all citizens had a least some degree of political power. Although some degree of strife typically materialized between the aristocrats and poorer elements, taking the advantage of such civic conflicts, tyrants came to power in most city states for a brief period before the people handed together and drove them out. Then of four, replacing them with a more popular form of government. During archaic period, that is 800 to 500 BCE, and in ancient Greece, the political landscape was marked by aristocracies, tyrannies, and transition to democracy. Aristocracies. Wealthy men who inherited land from their families were called aristocrats. The word aristocrat comes from a Greek word that means best. Tyrannies. The tyrants were autocrats who replaced aristocracies in many Greek city states. Some tyrants were aristocrats who seized control with the wealthy non-aristocrats. Others were military leaders who established miniature empire. Democracy. Athens is known as the birthplace of democracy, which developed in about 508 BCE after the expulsion of the lost group of tyrants. The Athenian revolution overthrew the aristocratic oligarchy and established the participatory democracy. Here are some other details about this political system in ancient Greece. Oligarchies. Between about 800 to 650 BCE, the most Greek city-states were ruled by a small group of wealthy men called oligarchs. Athenian democracy. Only adult male Athenian citizens who had completed their military training were allowed to vote. Women, slaves, freed slaves, children, and metics, that is, foreign residents, were excluded from voting. The role of aristocrats in wartime. Aristocrats were wealthy and could afford to supply soldiers with horses and armor, so kings depended on their support during wartime. So far, we discussed about about the Greece history in archaic Greece. So far, we discussed. We have done. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.